I'm Matt Burnett, and I did my project on Burnett & Son Meat Company. So here's the table of contents for a quick overview of what I'll be talking about. So Burnett & Son Meat Company is a further food processor outside of Monrovia, California. They mainly do meat items. They do fully cooked meals such as chicken cordon bleu, pot roast, pastrami, all sorts of meals like with lamb shank, lamb vindaloo. A lot of fun, interesting, unique meals that they process, they cook, pack, and then ship. They ship nationally. Their products in stores like Costco, Walmart, and they also sell it to various restaurants and other mom and pop shops. The problem being analyzed is the company has a machine called a Tiromat. The machine is used to take product and put into individual bags, and it puts a vacuum seal over the top. An issue is that every time they do a new product on the machine, before they run the new product, they have to do a full wash down of the machine. It has to meet USDA standards. This is to prevent things like listeria, allergens, cross-contamination, and other bacteria issues. So it's a very important task. And I timed it, and it currently takes 28 minutes to do a complete wash down. That's a lot of downtime. So with the Tiromat, there's 8 people that run the machine. 6 of those 8 people are general labor, and they are just, when the cleaning time comes, they're just responsible for washing the outside of the machine as well as some equipment. There is one Tiromat specialist. His job is to take the parts off the machine, wash the parts, and then put the parts back together on the machine. And then there's one supervisor who's making sure that everyone's doing their job and everything's running smoothly. So I conducted an interview, and the questions are: what is the criteria that needs to be met for each cleaning? What are the specific steps for the cleaning process? Do you think the process can be improved so it takes less time? And do you have any ideas of how to improve the process? I interviewed 3 people. The first person was the quality control manager. His job is to make sure that all processes are within the standards or meet the criteria for USDA. Then the quality control employee. His job is to be inside the plant and make sure that everything is going, all the standards are being met, all the SOPs are being met, and he also releases the Tiromat after cleaning, so he makes sure that all steps have been done and that the machine is fully cleaned. Then the Tiromat specialist, his job is to, like I already mentioned, take the parts off the machine. Interview analysis. So both the quality control manager and the employee mentioned that one issue they see is they don't grab the cleaning supplies, which is the water, the sanitizer, the soap, and the rags. They don't grab those supplies until after production stops and they start cleaning. They mentioned if they had one employee break away from the line and go grab the equipment maybe 5 minutes before production stops, they will be able to increase their time, decrease the time it takes to clean because they'll have all the equipment ready. And then the Tiromat specialist mentioned that he's the only one that is taking the parts off the machine, and it takes him the longest time to finish the job. His job takes the longest amount of time. So the 6 people are done cleaning the outside of the machine, and they have to stand around and wait for the Tiromat specialist to finish. He mentioned if people were cross-trained to help him, that would cut a significant amount of time off the cleaning process. So I made a as-is process flowchart. At the top is where the process begins. This is when the cleaning process begins. So they change out of their dirty coats, and then the general labor employees grab the cleaning supplies, they wash the outside of the machine, and then they have to wait for the specialist to finish. The Tiromat specialist starts right away removing the parts, cleans everything, puts it back together, and then they begin the new production. There are 2 main problem areas. One is that they grab the cleaning supplies once the cleaning has already started, and then the second is that they have to wait for the Tiromat specialist to finish his job. So this is the text of everything I just mentioned about the as-is process flowchart. I'm leaving it in there in case anyone wants to refer to it later. I also conducted a survey. Survey is 7 questions. The washdown would take less time if, and then it's a suggestion of a possible solution to help bring down the time on the cleaning. Employees measured how much they agree to each statement on a Likert scale, 1 to 5. The sample population were the 8 employees that work on the Tiromat, and the survey was administered in person. It was on paper, so it's still anonymous. The results were added together to get an average score for each question, and then the averages were placed into a bar graph for a better visual representation of the data. So this is each an individual question. So the higher the bar, the more they agree to the statement. So this is 6 and 7, and then this is a summary of the data. You can see that question number 6 is the highest or the most agreed to statement about how to make the cleaning process run more smoothly or more quickly. And it is that the cleaning process will be quicker if they had an additional hose for the cleaning process. Question 2, you can see, is the second most agreed upon statement. It is that, or it stated that the cleaning process would take less time if there was more cross-training, so if people could help the Tiromat specialist. And then question 3 was the third highest, most agreed to question, and it stated that the cleaning would take less time if there's more communication. So this is the summary of the data. This is everything I just mentioned. Again, I'm leaving it in there because anyone wants to refer to it later. I then created a 2B process flow chart. So it's the same as the as is, but there are 3 main differences. So 5 minutes before production ends, one employee goes and gathers all the cleaning supplies. That's the first change. And then they go, if they're a general labor employee, they clean the outside of the machine. And then if they are cross-trained and the Tiromat specialist is not done, they're then instructed to help the Tiromat specialist maybe clean the parts or put the parts back onto the machine. The third change is that the Tiromat specialist is going to grab one general labor employee to help him during the process. So he has someone by his side right from the very beginning to help the process move along faster. Again, this is a summary of everything I just mentioned. So the 3 recommendations for the washdown. The first recommendation, as the survey shows, is that the employees believe getting an additional hose will cut down time for the washdown. And then the second recommendation is have general labor employees cross-trained to help the machine specialist. That also comes from both the interview and the survey. A question I had on that was, how are you going to motivate employees to actually do the cross-training? And that will be done in 2 ways. The first way is they'll naturally be motivated because they're very hardworking people, our employees, and they like to get out work on the earlier side if they can, so they are more than happy to work harder if that means they can go home sooner. The second way that I would hope to motivate employees would be to have an in-house type of resume where people can keep track, or the company can keep track of who is cross-trained in what machine, to help motivate people to actually learn the machine and know what they're talking about, know how to take it apart, put it back together. That way, when it comes time to promote people or to give pay raises, they can show their resume and show they know whatever machine. The third recommendation for the Tiromat washdown is have employees assigned to gathering the cleaning supplies before the production ends, maybe 5 minutes before. And then a suggestion for further research, a lack of communication was highlighted in the survey results. Further investigation should be conducted to understand and fix the problem. So I'm not sure if it's a lack of communication between the employees, if it's lateral, or maybe it's horizontal between the bosses and the employees. I'm not quite sure where the lack of communication is happening. Further investigation should be conducted before any intervention takes place. Implementation plan. Adding an additional hose to the cleaning process will require using a water spigot in the adjacent room. So employees should be trained to put a safety cone in front of the hose if it covers a walking path. Besides that, that is something that can be implemented rather quickly. The second is the supervisor will be in charge of selecting one employee 5 minutes before production ends to grab the cleaning supplies. So the supervisor will be in charge of making sure that there's some job rotation and that different people are grabbing the cleaning supplies on different days. So he'll be in charge of making sure that that's happening. And then the cross training will be done on the job. So for the implementation plan on the cross training, it's going to be that it's just on the job training. The tier mat specialist is going to grab one guy during the cleaning, and he's going to show him how to take the parts off, clean them, and put the parts back together. And then once all 6 general labor employees are trained, then the supervisor will rotate, and the supervisor will decide who's helping the tier mat specialist, so that there is some rotation and everyone feels involved and everyone's remembering their cross training. The timetable. The additional hose and gathering the cleaning supplies before production ends should be implemented immediately after they do the brief training on putting the cone there. That is something that can be done tomorrow. Whenever the manager wants to implement this plan, it will not take long. However, the cross training will take a little bit more time. It is estimated that an employee can complete on-the-job cross training after 2.5 days, because there will be about six crossovers or 6 washdowns that they have to go through. So after 2.5 days, they should have a basic understanding of how the machine works and how to take the parts off and clean them. So for week 1, cross-train 2 employees. For week 2, cross-train the next 2 employees. And then week 3, cross-train the last 2 employees. This leaves week 4, have the supervisor begin rotating employees to help the tier mat specialist. And that would conclude the intervention for the tier mat situation. And here are supporting materials. The top link explains how the machine works. The second link is a USDA requirements for pre-operation, which is also the washdown. And then the last is an article about how Martin Steel used employee education and minimized transitional processes, such as the washdown, to increase production. And that's my presentation. Thank you.